Ways Ways and Means Committee to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Each member is acknowledging that they are attending the meeting via Zoom and are located in Wayne County, Michigan, unless otherwise stated when I call your name. Commissioner Scott,
Present.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Here.
Commissioner Marecki,
Here.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Present.
Commissioner Anderson,
Present.
Vice Chair Baydoun. He's joining now. Chair Varga,
Present.
Vice Chair Baydoun,
Here.
thank you. You have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item.
Item B, Chairwoman's remarks.
I'll wait till a little later, except that I would like everyone to unmute or mute themselves except for the commissioners. Okay, I think we're ready to go.
Item C, approval of the minutes of the July 27, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
It's been moved and
Support Anderson.
supported. All in favor say any discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
We're moving to item D, unfinished business. There is none. Moving to item E1 under new business. Requesting commission approval of budget adjustment 2021-35-217, certifying revenue in the ARPA fund.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Abbo, you want to explain this one real quick?
Yeah, actually, the administration had requested this go on an earlier budget. It's just that time constraints kind of precluded us from doing it. So we asked them if they could wait until the first budget hearing so that we could approve it. And this is just really so that a contract that was approved for Guidehouse could be paid. So that's the purpose for certifying.
Thank you. Any discussion on this item? Please mute yourself if you are not a commissioner. I'll take a motion.
I'll move approval for this. This is half the money, right? We're getting half
Yes.
right now. Okay, I'll move approval.
Thank you. Supported by
Kinlock.
Kinlock.
Support.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Yes.
Commissioner Marecki,
Yes.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baydoun,
Yes.
Chair Varga,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item, item E2, requesting commission approval of the amended comprehensive executive budget / appropriations ordinance for fiscal year 2021 and 2022 and the projected budget for fiscal year 2022 and 2023.
Okay, we have to open a public hearing on this. I'll take a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Support.
Been moved and supported. Record roll call, please.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Yes.
Commissioner Marecki,
Yes.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baydoun,
Yes.
Chair Varga,
Yes.
motion carries.
Would you please unmute yourselves, or the clerk can unmute everyone so we can have a public hearing? I'll give it a second, and then we will hear from the public if anybody is there to talk about this.
Everyone has been asked to unmute themselves.
Okay. Anyone in the public wishing to comment today during the public hearing? Is anyone wishing to comment on the public hearing for the budget today? Anyone from the public wishing to comment? Okay, we'll move on. Next item, please.
We need a motion to close public hearing.
Oh, motion to close.
So
Move
moved.
to close.
Becky.
Support, Kinlock.
Okay,
Thank you.
record roll call, please.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Yes.
Commissioner Baker, thank you. Commissioner Marecki,
Yes.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baydoun,
Yes.
Chair Varga,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you.
We're now on item E3, Wayne County Register of Deeds budget hearing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can we go back? That was the public hearing on the budget.
Yes,
Yes,
We need to have a motion to table the actual item.
I was just gonna ask for that. I need to have a motion to table this item, and later on we'll bring it back up after our deliberations, and we'll take it to the full commission.
Motion to table the item.
What what item are we tabling?
Actually, if I'll clarify that.
Mark Abel, please.
Yeah, what we're going to do,
Clarify.
we are going to table the budget for a future meeting, at which time we will take it off the table and then remand it to Cow, and then Cow will then remand it to the board. So
Okay.
this is really just a procedural matter,
Okay,
so that, you know, the commission has received the budget, we're tabling it, and it'll be tabled until after we have the hearings with each of the departments.
okay, thank you.
We really didn't do this before, Terry, so it's,
Yeah, I don't remember it. Yeah, thank you.
it took me by surprise for a minute too. So we have a motion to table and support. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Yes.
Commissioner Marecki,
Yes.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Anderson, Vice Chair Baydoun,
Yes.
Chair
Anderson.
Varga,
Yes,
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
thank you. Motion carries.
thank you. Next item.
Item E3, Wayne County Register of Deeds budget hearing.
Okay, we are starting our process of hearing from all electeds and departments. And we will come up with a budget at the end of all of this process. So Mr. Mark Gabo, do you want to set the table before we begin?
Yeah, I just want to thank the commissioners. This is actually the first one to go. You've all been sent a revised schedule. Today, we are going to be hearing from the Register of Deeds, the treasurer, and just a portion of Corporation Counsel, and that's Indigent Defense. So it starts out with the Register of Deeds, and if we could have the Register of Deeds start us out and kind of walk us through their budget.
Okay, good morning. This is Barbara Johnson. I'm the Chief Deputy Register of Deeds. And Jenny Wright, who is the Deputy Register who handles the finance, she'll be presenting the budget information. But Mr. Youngblood was not able to be present today, and he did email you all to let you know the reason. Hopefully we can get through this budget process easily today. And Mr. Youngblood did want you all to know that he attended that Zoom call the other day concerning the flood, and there was a FEMA representative on the line. So Mr. Youngblood is trying to come up with a plan to give access to FEMA to our land records so they can get some of those applications processed sooner.
Well, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome this morning. You may begin.
Okay, Jenny, do you want to proceed?
I really didn't have any presentation prepared. I'm available to answer any questions that the commissioners have regarding our budget.
Okay. Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
is there any more that you would like to share? Are you happy with the budget as proposed? Or is the Register of Deed happy with the budget that's proposed?
Well, yes, Jenny did a good job of going through everything, and we're happy with her figures.
We have no problem with the budget at this point.
Good job, Jenny. Okay, well, that was a really quick one. Mr. Abbo, do you have any questions?
I actually, as I look at the budget, I mean, it very little variance from the prior year. It looks like almost status quo. The only concerns that I have and comments that I might have are related to COVID. A response that was made to one of our questions was dealing with COVID, and it's item number 10, or question number 10, how has COVID-19 impacted your office? And the response was, COVID has limited our ability to serve the public at large, as we have not been able to fully resume in-person services in our lobby. We are taking appointments online and serving a small number of people, businesses per day. Is there a point in time where you expect that we will, be fully back to full services? And I'm seeing the same theme with Register of Deeds that we have for a lot of departments last year, and I'm understanding as the year has progressed, the same theme, and that deals with personnel and our ability to attract personnel and our ability to retain personnel. And I was wondering what the Register of Deeds view was on that, and whether we'll be able to fulfill our mission with the inability to fully attract and retain personnel as we've seen so often in the past.
Okay, well, we did open our office on May 1st, 2020, and we have been working in-house, basically handling documents that were sent in to us electronically and through the mail. Then for a brief time, starting in November, we had people actually come to the office. I hear somebody talking, sorry. We had people come into the office, but when the COVID numbers started going up again, of course, we stopped that temporarily, but we resumed having people come in on an appointment only basis. And then we gradually added walk-ins to that. And we had a plan to go strictly walk-ins like we did before and people not need appointments, but then the COVID numbers are going up again. And with that variant, we decided to operate with appointments and take walk-ins up to the point where we don't want to have too many people in the office. So most people can come in with the walk-ins if we have some room. And as far as the employees, it is difficult to get employees. We have two classifications, well, actually 3 classifications that we're attempting to fill. One of them is our indexer classification, and these are the employees who they earn about $29,000, and they take information from the recorded documents and put it into fields so that it becomes searchable. So they look through a document and they find out who the grantor is and the address, those type of things. And although personnel has sent out notices for people to apply for the jobs, very few of the people that they schedule for the exams actually show up. And just like they were able to get 5 people for an exam that took place Monday, but only 1 showed up and that person didn't pass the test.
Oh,
And this has been like ongoing. It's just difficult. People claim they're going to come take the test, but they don't end up taking the exams. We have another classification called Land Records Analyst. And that one, we don't have as much difficulty because we do promote from within. So we have the ability to promote up from indexer to land records analyst. And when they announce it as promotional, we do get county employees that are interested. But on occasion, like earlier this year and last year, we had difficulty filling that classification. And we have another classification called Engineer 4, Plat Engineer. And it's really a position that's held by a licensed land surveyor because we need someone in that classification to approve condominium plans and plats. And traditionally, it takes months for us to fill that position. So we had the position announced as a recruitment after we didn't get anyone through the promotional route. And that was earlier this year in April. We got 1 application. We interviewed the person, and unfortunately, our salary didn't meet what he expected a land surveyor who has a bachelor's degree and also the license to get, because we only offer, I think it's $66,000. And he was looking more in the range of 120,000. Because the problem with the land surveyors is they have to go to school, get the bachelor's degree, then they have to train under someone for 4 years before they can even take the test. So as a result of that, not many people are going into that field anymore. And the average age of land surveyor is 56 years. So we're just plugging along, and personnel did send us another resume today. So we're hoping that this works because it took us quite a while, maybe 6 or 7 months before to fill the last position.
Thank you, Barbara.
Welcome.
Another aspect of the Register of Deeds that I thought was very important that you touched on last year, and we did ask questions about this year, and it's your fraud investigations for homes where there's been fraudulent activity and homes may have been fraudulently taken from, our citizens. And I noticed that last year, in the analysis you gave us, it says homes returned in 2019 were 9, and this year is 1. Can I interpret that as because of success in the program, and we've been kind of proactive in helping stop the fraud activity? Can you give us some flavor on that?
That's true to a large extent. And also, there had not been any court hearings.
Oh, is that why? Okay.
So, right, because often they will have trials where the people are ordered to return the property.
so what you're saying is that there may be more out there, you just didn't get to them all.
Correct.
Madam Chair.
I have a list, but go ahead.
No, this was just that there absolutely are folks that are filing false deeds. Last month, I contacted the Register of Deed, Mr. Youngblood, in regards to a senior citizen that had encountered this type of fraud, and he put them in touch with this unit.
It's a very, very good unit. And they have very good success. And so hopefully we'll, the message will get out there that if the property is not yours, don't touch it. We have a list, Commissioner Anderson, and thank you for joining us. Commissioner Dobb, you're next after Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you. Barbara, I just wondered if you could tell us, have they done anything, I'm not sure who provides the service with checking to make, for the fraud unit, but the notices that go out don't seem to be addressed to the particular tax ID number. They look for commonality, it looks like, with names. I've received some that actually have my first name, middle initials different, and it's not, of course, the same tax ID number. Are they going to eventually get that to where it will, the notices that go out, it'll send out only to those that have that tax ID number?
Are you speaking of the fraud guard?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, we have some limitations because presently, that's a product that's offered to us from Tyler Technologies, our land records provider. And so we got the initial version of that software. And so it only allows for the names. So anytime a document is recorded with your name, even if it's not you, you're going to get a notification on it. Now, we have requested that we get a more enhanced version of that. So Tyler is working on that, but it won't be, I can't tell you exactly when it's going to be because there's some other things that are going to be offered along the same time that we're updating in the software, but we do plan to have other factors. I know it was going to be the address, and I think we had also asked for the tax ID number, but if not, I'll make sure I bring that up.
Yeah, I think that would eliminate those. I'm sure there's some people that get them that sort of get really concerned when they see it immediately. If they signed up for it, they of course know what it is. And but then when you look to the details, you find that it's not you, not your property after all. So if we could do that, I think that would be very beneficial and cause less concern probably with people that received a notice for another piece of property.
Right.
The other thing I'd appreciate if you could let us know if you're able to get that revision in the software. But the other thing I wanted to ask is records retention and the scanning of documents that in the Register of Deeds office. I know your department was one of the earliest, I think, to try to go to paperless, and I just wonder how that is going. I realize there was a number of contracts that we approved, and I just wonder how far along in the process are we right now to catch up with those older records. And I'm assuming that everything when we started from the prospective are going to be all digital as they're recorded. But I think that if I remember correctly, that was the case. But I'm wondering the old records, so we can eventually get to the point that we're not having to pay storage costs and we've got everything digitized. Is there an update that you could give us on that?
Well, some of the older information had been in our track books. And I'm trying to think of how many years ago we had Co-File Technology scan all of the track books so that, and they also developed some software that allows us to search the track books. And the track books, because we don't have proper humidity and temperature and fire protection in our building, they are stored off-site. And with the land records, as you indicated, as they're recorded, they are digitized. And we also had a lot of microfilm in our office. So we had US Imaging scan the microfilm into reels and give us the ability to search those without always having to pull out each roll of microfilm. Now there's some that they haven't gotten to yet, so we do still pull microfilm on occasion, but that did make the process simpler. And as far as having to store, the state of Michigan's best practices for preserving digitized records is that you have those records converted to microfilm, because no one knows what will happen to any item that's up in the cloud or in a digital format, whereas microfilm is something that's always around. It's supposed to be guaranteed to last at least 500 years if stored in the proper climate.
I understand the need to have redundancy in the storage. I'm just wondering how we, does the state require them, are you saying, to be on microfilm?
I'm not saying the state requires it, but the state has a best practice for preserving records, and that is the best practice. And when I've done research to find out about the process, because it does get expensive to store microfilm, the explanation is that, you know, it's a way to make sure that the land records, which are very valuable, are always available for future generations.
Okay.
But
Okay.
if anybody is aware of a better way to go about it, we're interested in hearing it.
Yeah, I would have thought that if we had our own servers or servers off-site, that we have a storage there as well as having them on a cloud. Because I'm like you, I'm not sure cloud is as long-lasting as far as and error-free, I should say, that you've got to have a redundant system, I believe. But anyway, thanks for the update on that. I
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
Mhm.
Barbara, you have laptops for everyone who needs to work from home or who is asked to work from home?
Yes, we do have laptops for everyone now.
Okay, so you're all set. I remember a few years back, when the Register of Deed really wanted some people to work from home, as he thought they would be more productive. So are you finding now that what he was thinking was actually correct?
Yes, that he was trying to get the ability to have our indexers work from home years ago. And we got that opportunity during the pandemic. So they started working from home in October 2020, when we were able to borrow some laptops from the Department of Technology. And they have been working primarily at home the whole time, except we do have the indexers come in maybe once every 2 weeks, just so we can have some routine. And they also perform some of the tasks in the mail room when they come into the office. But their production is very good.
Good
And
to hear.
it's also beneficial to the employees, because parking in our area around 400 Monroe is very expensive. And this way they only have to pay for parking, you know, probably 2 or 3 times a month.
Right. Well, he had some foresight for sure about how to make the department or his office more efficient, and glad that it's working out well, even under these circumstances. And I'm sure the employees are happy because they don't have to pay the high parking.
Right.
Because that was something, or reimburse them for parking, and so this way they have the best of the two worlds. So that's great.
Right, and especially since the pay is so low, you know, it's only $29,000, which is something that I know Mr. Youngblood feels strongly that he would like them to at least make $15 an hour, which is what I guess the state was hoping would be the new minimum.
Well, Barbara, please pass the information on that in this budget, we are raising everyone to $15 an hour.
Oh, great.
So he got that wish too, and he didn't know it.
Okay.
Well, we've been working on that for a long time because we do appreciate our employees and they do deserve to have that. And I know that they've been working really hard through hard times. And so especially now they need to be rewarded. So that's great. We have Commissioner Melissa Dobb
Madam
next.
Chair, Madam Chair,
Yes.
before we get to another commissioner, I just want to make a clarification.
Okay,
Spoke about Corporation Council. We will be speaking of the entirety of Corporation Council, not just indigent services. So my apologies.
okay. Commissioner Dobb?
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess most of my question had already been discussed, but I just wanted to go back to the indexer position that was for the salary that used to be $29,000 a year, but I guess is going up to $15 an hour. You know, $29,000 a year comes out to $13.94 an hour. I'm not surprised that we're not getting any applicants for that position. And then I was going to ask Ms. Johnson how much parking is in that area. She indicated that it was expensive. So I don't know if you know how much it is per day to park around 400 Monroe.
Well, on a daily basis, it would be about $7 to $10, unless there's a special event, then it could be $20 a day.
Mm-hmm.
But the county used to have relationships with some of the parking lots, so the county employees paid a smaller monthly rate. But our personnel person in the office said that the last information he had received was that the only relationship that we have for discounted parking was with a lot that was near Cranes down there on Gratiot.
Mm-hmm.
And that was $60 a month. And then he mentioned one that was closer to, I guess, the Coleman Young Municipal Center, which is $90 a month.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's pretty far. So, even taking into account, like, if we go up to $15 an hour for someone to pay $10 a day for parking, that's, quite a bit of money out of their paycheck that they're paying just to park. And then how much are they paying in premiums for health insurance? That's a huge expense, when you're only making $15 an hour. So, even though we're bumping up the salary a little bit, I just think, I'm not sure that that's going to be enough. So I just wanted to make that comment and ask some of those questions.
Okay.
That's all I had. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Baker McCormick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You were renovating the fraud department, expanding that area. Did you complete that? Was the renovation completed?
Yeah, they were adding room for the conference room that's used.
Yeah.
Yes, that was completed.
Okay, I was just wondering about that. And did the prosecutor move over to, or have a person move over to those offices?
Well, the prosecutor already had people who work in the mortgage and deed fraud unit. She has prosecutors there as well as investigators.
Right, but did they actually move into offices over where you guys are?
Well, I know the prosecutor had another space that she was had created for some other staff members that are in a different unit. And I'm not sure which unit of employees actually work in that other space.
Okay, because I just thought
it's not associated with the mortgage and deed fraud unit.
Okay, my understanding is that they were moving someone over there to work in tandem with that unit. So that was the reason for the expansion of the area.
Now, I remember when those employees first moved in there, and I can't even remember when it was, at sometime last year, I believe, they were working on a project with people in the mortgage and deed fraud unit, because I know they were over there using our equipment and things, but
Okay.
I'm not sure who's working over there or what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Glenn Anderson.
Yes, thank you for a second time. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Something was mentioned about the parking by I think it was Commissioner Dobb, the cost of parking. Barbara, have we explored them using the I believe it's a 3rd Street or First Street parking?
First Street. We had tried that for a couple of years, and we were never able to get permission for our employees to have the ability to use First Street parking. It wasn't something available to us.
That's interesting. Maybe we ought to talk to them when we get to economic development.
Right.
We'll hopefully be able to discuss that later, because my understanding is they're far under capacity right now. And how many in your department would you have that would probably use parking? Because they have the shuttle, I think the shuttle would be able to drop them off at the door on Monroe. So it would seem to make a lot of sense to provide them the parking there, and that would, especially the lower paid, and maybe at a graduated price or whatever. So those that can afford at the least would have a discounted rate. But anyway, I guess we can discuss that with the appropriate at the appropriate budget when we're taking it up.
We
Okay.
definitely will dive into it at a later date.
That's good to hear.
Okay, Commissioner Sam Baydun,
Thank you.
Vice Chair of the
Thank you.
committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This might sound a weird question, but I'm going to ask it. And I'm putting my real estate hat on as a real estate broker. There's a lot of demand and a lot of interest in the Register of Deeds office. So many people have transactions throughout the year. And I understand the challenges when it comes to parking and people making the trip to downtown Detroit. Have you considered maybe like a satellite office out in Out County to help some of these people who cannot go downtown to transact and do their business? I know this might sound a weird question, but I'm just thinking outside the box.
It's not a weird question. That was something that we had on our list of things that we were going to try to accomplish years ago. But offhand, I can't remember all of the obstacles. I know there was difficulty in trying to find a place that we could actually use, because we thought maybe a library or something like that, but then there were obstacles to doing it, and we just didn't continue with that project after that point.
Yeah, I would recommend it, just a recommendation. That's something for the future discussion, to consider the possibility of a satellite office in outer Wayne County, just to accommodate some of these neighboring cities that cannot make the trip and they don't have the computers to go online and do business with the Register of Deeds. That's my thought. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The fees have not gone up yet for using the system, has it?
No, we still charge the same fees.
Okay. Commissioner Martha G. Scott.
Thank you. Barbara, is the fraud unit fully staffed?
Well, I think we're down one prosecutor, and we don't really have a sheriff's deputy in the unit anymore, but we do have access to one when we need the person.
Okay. I know right now you said that you haven't really had a lot of activity there, but once this hopefully that it'll soon be over, that we'll get back into having more
Right.
persons. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, as long as you're getting at least one person from the sheriff's department when you need them.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands up by commissioners. But
One more question, Madam Chair, one more
Sure.
quick, I just thought of something.
Commissioner Baydun,
Yeah, Barbara, from my experience, with our title companies, everything is done electronically. Do you see that the majority of the title companies that record the deeds and documents send them electronically? Are you still getting a lot of mail registration, if you will?
Well, I think that a lot of the businesses, including title companies, have switched to electronic. Because primarily when we were closed for walk-ins, some of the title companies had difficulty getting their documents recorded because they didn't want to trust the mail system. So they had to wait until we had appointments where they could have someone walk in and sit and wait while they were recorded. But the electronic process is just so much simpler that most of them have embraced it now.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
do we have a backlog currently, Barbara?
No, we don't have a backlog. We were able to get, well, we have a backlog in our index and verification queue, but we do not have a backlog of documents that need to be recorded. Because when we came back into the office, well, we went on that furlough for COVID-19, I think March 16th. So we didn't do any recording activity at that point. And then I think within about 2 weeks, we were doing emergency recordings that had to be done, these large projects and things. And then May 1st was when we actually went back in the office, and because of the leaves that people were eligible for, we only had, I think, 5 employees that were actually recording documents until these people came off the leaves that they were able to take. And once we got our staff in the office, we were able to really push out those recordings. And over time, we kept narrowing the gap. So we're right up there. I think our recording date is usually 3 days behind our current date today. So
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Our indexers do a good job of keeping the index queue low. The problem we had was with our index verification queue. And the reason we verify the index is because, from human error, people are going to make some mistakes. And that was the queue that had been neglected. So although we have US Imaging now assisting us to try to get that queue down, because that one is extremely high. So otherwise, we're okay.
Sounds great. Any other commissioners or staff who have any questions for Ms. Johnson? Mark, are we all set?
I believe we are. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Barbara. Give our best to the Register of Deed.
Okay.
And, he owes us a song for some of the work we're going to be doing on his behalf.
I'll let him know. Oh, Danny boy, I think he'd be glad to sing that one.
Yeah, I was going to ask him to do that, but since he couldn't make it, we'll have other times.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Mr. Abo, next.
Yes, Madam Chair, the next department reporting is the treasurer.
Do we have the treasurer with us or someone from the office?
Good morning.
Well, good morning, Mr. Treasurer. How are you?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of commission. How are you? I'm
Morning.
doing well this morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
I have with me our Chief Deputy Treasurer, Jean-Pierre Adams, our Deputy Finance, LaShonda Thomas, and our Investment Manager, John Kravitz. So they'll be here as well to help answer questions today.
Okay.
And also, Mark, Good morning to you too.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer.
Give us some good news.
Well, first of all, I want to say we have answered a lot of questions very extensively. And I'll just give a quick summary of things that are going on. And the good news is that this year and last year, we didn't have any occupied properties get foreclosed in Wayne County. We had, of course, COVID-19. And because of that and the difficulties associated with it, we were able to go to court, and Judge Kenny graciously agreed to extend the deadline for redemption till March 31st of 2022 for this year. So that's the great news that we have. We also our collections are going well, and considering all the things that the people are dealing with, that the collections are going well. Not quite as good as 2019, but very close. And so we're making a comeback in terms of collections. Our delinquencies are down in terms of what we receive from the municipalities. This year, we sold notes. You know, we actually went out for bid, and our notes, we sold $152 million. $152,825,000 was our delinquent tax revolving fund note that Chase Bank, JP Morgan Chase, was the winning bidder, and a great rate of 0.544%, fixed rate. And compared to last year, we had $169 million in delinquent notes at a 1.88, an average of about 1.88%, even though last year was a blended rate. So we refinanced the remaining $39 million we owed from last year, and the rate, we got a 0.31% rate. So we saved the county about $261,000 by refinancing that. That's going to be done. Refinancing will take place officially on Monday, August 2nd. So that's very good news. So even though our interest rates are very low, we've been able to take advantage of refinancing and help the county out in that respect. We're making a great effort. Our outreach is very strong. We're making a great effort to let people know that March 31st is our deadline to avoid foreclosure for next year. So we're going to have a full court press on that issue, because we had, one of the things our General did was they said that we should comply with the state mandated deadline of March 31st for foreclosures, and not to allow additional time and extensions beyond the state statute. So we're doing that, and we're just getting the word out. And of course, you can help us do that anytime you want to invite us to your meetings. We'd be glad to come and encourage taxpayers to get into payment plans early as possible. 2019 and prior taxes. So
You're welcome. Anytime.
With that, I just want to say, we have a dedicated staff that's working very hard under conditions that they've had to work remotely. They've had to work at home, work in the office, and we've had to make some changes. But the changes are really documented in our questions, especially question 14. I won't go through all of them, but you can see that we've had to make some adjustments, and I think that so far so good.
How are the kiosks working out?
Kiosks are working well. We have over 100 locations now where people can pay at the kiosk. And the thing about the kiosk that's really important is that the kiosk also accepts cash. So for those people who don't want to pay online or they deal in cash, they can go to the kiosk rather than come down to the 400 Monroe to pay. The kiosk now is really accounting for about 25% of our revenue. We receive almost 25% of the revenue at the kiosk right now. And that's an increase from about 10 or 11% before COVID-19.
I would presume that as people know more and more about those kiosks, that it will also get used a lot more in the future because it is convenient.
I agree.
Okay, Mr. Abbo, do you have any questions to start off?
I do, Madam Chair, but I thought maybe perhaps you'd like to go to the commissioners first.
I don't see any hands of the commissioners yet.
Okay, then I will ask my question. First of all, kudos to the treasurer's office for the work that they've been doing on financing. I think that that's great that the interest rates are down. And from a historical perspective, I mean, you talked about $152 million in DTANs. I can remember a day when that number was over $300 million. So that truly is good news, not only for the treasurer's office, but for Southeast Michigan and Wayne County, that delinquencies are down. And that's to me an overall very, very good sign for our citizens and our economy. But Mr. Treasurer, I noticed last year there was a transfer to the general fund of $30 million of the surplus that's generated through the delinquent tax activity. And this year there will not be a transfer at all. It'll be zero. I've always been an advocate for making that whole process less subjective, and thought that at some point we might want to work out some kind of a formula where we take, working capital that's needed for the treasurer's office, debt reserves that are needed so that we can get the interest rates that you're talking about, going forward, and then any other reserves that may be appropriate, and from that deducting, the fund balance. We ended last year with a fund balance of about $139 million, which is just, I mean, it's wonderful. It's great. But it's hard to put your finger on what may be available as surplus without going through some sort of formal and consistent analysis. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that this year's reason really relates to that Raffaelli case, where we don't know if there's going to be any retroactive payments due from the county to any former owners who lost their property to foreclosure. We're not sure yet, even though we have some news, recent good news from the Oakland County Circuit Court. But after it goes to the Court of Appeals, or if the Supreme Court hears that the case that was presented by the Attorney General recently, if we get a decision soon and we don't have any retroactive payments, then we can talk about what kind of transfer, larger transfer to the general fund. Now, one of the things that the county should think about is that every year we borrow money. DTANs, we go out, we borrow money to fund the communities when they turn over their delinquency. This year was $152 million. If we didn't have to borrow the money and we were able to fund it, then we would save the county millions of dollars. And I think that's something that should be considered as well, in terms of our analysis. What we're going to transfer, how much, and if we're going to continue to borrow money. If we have money, why would we borrow money to fund the delinquent tax notes?
That's a discussion that could probably go on for days and days and days, because in order to self-fund, we would probably need reserves of $300 million. I don't know if we would want to generate that. I think that if we had $300 million, that money could be best utilized in the county's general fund. But again, that wouldn't be my decision, but that's just a thought. I think that's what was a concept that was, being pushed by a former treasurer. Again, I think that would require a lot of discussion if we wanted to move in that direction. But with interest rates so low, I think that it's probably appropriate that we issue DTANs at this point in time and utilize the monies that could be sent to the general fund in the form of surplus to alleviate some of the problems that we may have, dealing with employment related issues. So anyway, that's just a thought.
That's the general idea. When we have a surplus, to get the surplus to the general fund so it can be used. That's the basis for it. And I agree with doing that.
Great. If you're not a commissioner, please mute yourself, please. Okay, Commissioner Glenn Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask Mr. Sabri or Eric if they.
One second. would everyone mute themselves if you are not a commissioner? Someone is not muted and we can hear your discussion in the background. Thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you. Eric, just wanted to ask, I know you did very early on when you came into to the treasurer's position, you had an outside company that you hired that basically did an overview of how you could make the office run smoother. And then I think we got 2 years later or so, we got hit with COVID. But I just wondered is there any additional things that you see coming that you want to do to increase efficiency and I guess make everything run smoother? I applaud you for what you've done up to this point, but I know I've always been of the mind that we never are at our absolute best. We can always continue to improve, and I just wonder, do you see anything else happening on that front with your office, and as well needs to help you get there?
Okay. Commissioner Anderson, I'd like to just say this. We had an audit, done an operational audit, and then we brought in a consultant who is now our chief deputy, Javier Adams. She worked as a consultant in our office to implement policies and procedures that came about from this initial operational audit. So she's been on top of this policies and procedures, and I would like her to just come in and answer your question in terms of improvements and the things that we might need going forward, because she has been working on this for over 3 years, and I think that she would be the best to answer it. So John Vier, you can go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're there. Okay, I didn't realize you were there. Okay.
I'm here. Yes, we are continuing to make improvements, and we are stretching our bounds to an outreach to taxpayers and try to make our services more accessible to taxpayers. One of the things that we've implemented this year is the ability to enter our payment plans remotely and to execute payment plans agreements electronically and upload the supporting documents. We'll continue to expand that into all of our payment plan options. We only have a few that are actually online right now, but we are expanding those to include all payment plan options. Additionally, we are trying to move our call center so that if we have these social distancing requirements in the future, which we have presented some constraints for us over the past year, that our call center employees will be able to work remotely, and we can expand our staff that way. And we believe that that would also help us in recruitment, because that's one of the areas where we're having difficulty recruiting new employees. So those are a couple of the things that are on the agenda for immediate implementation. But we're always looking for other options to bring services into the community for our taxpayers.
I appreciate that. I know the kiosk, I think, was a great idea. But I know some communities have gotten out of that now. Westland, for instance, for some reason, I don't know if it was a matter of cost or accessibility, because they had it out in the main lobby, but of course they are not there 24/7. But I'm not sure what happened there, but I mean, Eric, you could tell me that later on. But I did want to ask about cross training. We've got a lot of background noise. I don't know where it's.
Yeah, Commissioner Anderson, if you would hold off for 1 second. Whoever is not muted from the public, please mute yourself. Madam Clerk, can you find the person who's not hearing us?
Just mute everyone except whoever is talking.
I've muted the person and they keep unmuting themselves. I'm sorry.
Okay, try to I know.
I'll
If
I'll
you
stay
can.
on it.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you. It was just about cross-training, and I don't know if Mrs. Adams would want to address that or if Eric would. Do we have, and do you believe we had an adequate system of cross-training or policy of cross-training within the treasurer's office?
So most of our employees at the CSCS level are cross-trained for our cashier's unit and our call center. That's our heaviest volume areas. And all of the CSCSs in our office go through training in both of those areas before they are placed into the other units within our department. So there is sufficient cross-training in that area. We also have some cross-training in our accounting staff. We have now one of our tax accounting senior accountants who is working in our cash accounting where we have a shortage. So we're constantly and encouraging employees to be cross-trained and to take advantage of opportunities in other units within our department.
So you think it's sufficient right now, what you're doing with cross-training?
For cross-training purposes, yes, we just don't have enough employees.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. We have.
I'm sorry, can I just add one other comment in response to Commissioner Anderson, because he noted that the kiosks were removed from Westland and that some taxpayers may have accessibility problems. We were talking with our primary bank, JP Morgan Chase, just a couple of weeks ago about some new programs coming online. And particularly we were concerned about our payment by phone program, which required taxpayers to set up a password. Chase is now implementing a new and much broader remote payment option for our customers, because we're their customer, which will allow taxpayers over the next year to start to make payments at their kiosk in CVS locations, in Walmart locations, and other stores throughout the state. So we're looking forward to that expansion as well for remote payment options.
Is there, that prompts one other question. Does
Sure.
does the customer or the citizen have the ability to go to a Chase branch and to pay those payments as well?
Not currently.
I wonder if we could explore that to see if, because that would, I think they'd feel secure, probably very secure.
So
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. So when this program goes online with Chase, they will have kiosk units in their branches as well, so that taxpayers should be able to take advantage of those locations with the kiosks there to make payments.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. We have another list, Commissioner Baydoun and then Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Sabri, thank you for everything that you do on behalf of the residents of Wayne County. And I want to thank you again publicly for the several times I have reached out to you to help homeowners that were in dire need of assistance, and you did help them in terms of payment plans. A couple of questions. The first question, Mr. Sabri, have you thought or considered like a satellite office? The same question I asked the Register of Deeds, maybe in Wayne County, just to help residents who cannot make the trip downtown Detroit to do business with the treasurer's office. That's my first question. And the second one, with the recent flooding, especially in my city of Dearborn, which has about 20,000 homes that were devastated with the flooding, a lot of people are struggling right now to replace appliances and furniture, especially if they didn't have adequate insurance coverage. And we've been hearing now that FEMA is not covering everything. These people might fall behind on paying their installments and property taxes. And come February of next year, March 1st, actually, the taxes get transferred to Wayne County. Would the treasurer's office consider waiving any late penalties and fees for those people who could not make their payments because of the flood?
Okay, all right, I'll answer your first question right away. It's something that we've considered. Our remote locations, another location we've looked at partnering with the clerk's office and doing it together. We've looked at a couple of locations. We looked at even a mobile unit to go from different places. We've explored a few other things, but we haven't come up with anything that makes economic sense. And then when COVID hit and we had a shortage of employees, we just put that on the back burner and decided that, you know, we have to address our immediate concerns, which is trying to serve the public in our office. And we just have not done anything in the last, say, year and a half to talk about another location. I think we need to get fully staffed and key positions in our office, get our phone system working the way it should. And then I think it's a good idea, but it just has to make sense for us. We don't want to spread ourselves too thin in terms of, because if we collect money, then we have to have security too at that location. That involves the sheriff's office, and you know, they have been very gracious, making sure that we have 3 deputies in our office every day.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to look at all of those things. We just haven't done anything about it because of our needs right now. The second question you asked about the flooding issue. I talked to you briefly about this, I guess a month ago, right around the time of flood.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is, we said that if we can get a database of people who are been impacted by the flood. So if someone applies for aid, if there's a database at the county or at the municipality level, or the state level, we should know who they are, and they can apply for hardship. John Vieira may want to talk more about the hardship policy that we have, and we would be able to help them through our hardship. Interest and penalties are statutory. We don't have the ability or right to waive them unless state law changes. So, John Vieira, you want to talk about the hardship policy and how we could maybe accommodate anyone who was a flood victim?
Yes, so under the statute, the treasurer has the authority to determine what a financial hardship, what constitutes a financial hardship. And so for the past year, we've looked at pandemic impacted businesses and landlords, and we created a hardship payment plan for both of those categories, for small businesses who were impacted by COVID and for the landlords who were impacted by the moratorium on evictions. And one of the treasurer and I spoke recently about expanding the hardship program to possibly include those taxpayers impacted by the floods. Midland County has done something similar in the past with the breach of the dam. I can't remember the exact name of it, but with those taxpayers in Midland County who were impacted by that flood, they created a hardship policy. So we are looking to expand our hardship policy to include the flood victims, and we will be reaching out to the county Homeland Security Division to try and get some data so that we can reach out to those taxpayers as well.
Thank you.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Are you done, Commissioner Baidu, for now?
Yeah, Mr. Sabri, can I share this information that the treasurer's office is looking into, creating some kind of a program, under the hardship for those people that were affected by the flood, because people are panicking. September is around the corner where people have to make the first installment in the city of Dearborn, and many don't have the money because, like I said, they're worried about buying appliances and replacing the furnace and the hot water thing.
I would encourage us to get to have a system where we could get a database from entities such as the city, the county, or the state, because for people to call us one by one to try to get involved, it's very difficult. We went through this through COVID. If we have anyone who applies for aid, if we can get that data, we would know that those people have been impacted by the flood. I would advise us to do it that way. That would be my preference, and because it makes it easier for the staff. If we have one contact person, they can receive the data. We can reach out to them in an organized way, and it won't be so haphazard, and we won't lose people along the way. I think that would serve us service
So
all
if
that.
we can create some kind of a database with someone in the city of Dearborn, for example, I'm speaking for the city of Dearborn now, where people can reach out to that person and submit their name and then you can get this information from the city.
Yes, that would work. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I think everybody had to go to the city first, so they would have really good information at the local level.
Yeah.
So I would imagine we could say that we're working on something with the treasurer, and that way it would not be a promise, but we're working on something.
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
That'll be fine.
Yeah, because sometimes we feel so helpless, just like you, and people are looking for answers, and as long as they know that we're working on something, it gives them a little bit of comfort. Alrighty, Commissioner Baker McCormick, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned earlier that, first, let me thank you for all that you're doing. I think you're doing a wonderful job. In March 31st, the moratorium or the foreclosures will resume, as you indicated earlier. And I know last year you partnered with some business organizations to help homeowners stay in their home or to provide assistance to them. And I was wondering if that program is still in place, or are you looking at implementing another program such as that? I recently sponsored a resolution that talked to Black home ownership, and I'm not sure if you know, but the levels of Black home ownership in the United States is lower than where it was in 1968. So it's important to me that we intentionally work to ensure that we don't lose anyone to home foreclosure. So I don't know if you've looked at other partnerships or have partners, as well as if there are any ARPA funds that can be used to ensure that homeowners stay in their home.
Okay, that's a great question. I also would like to know if there are any ARPA funds that can be used to help homeowners stay in their homes. So we're both asking about that. If you find out, please let me know.
All right, we will work on that.
We had one of our banks. They didn't want me to announce their name when they did it, and I guess they still haven't given me permission. So I won't tell you who they are, but one of our big banks in the city gave a grant of $300,000 to Wayne Metro on our behalf so that they could help taxpayers stay out of foreclosure. And this was they used it as a way of a matching fund where if people needed $1,500 to get out of foreclosure and they had $800, then the other $700 will be provided through this fund. And this was before the Dan Gilbert Foundation came in and said they would pay the balance for anyone who was exempt and had been approved for the pay-as-you-stay program in Detroit. So this $300,000 went a long way, helped about 345 people, I believe, avoid foreclosure. It was good, but it wasn't really enough in the sense that we still have people in trouble. So I've written to all of our banks, and I'm always begging them to participate in some type of program like this. And I'm still working on a few of them, and hopefully they'll be able to help again with that. So I've never stopped asking for, not for the treasurer's office, but for them to give the money to the nonprofit Wayne Metro, one of our partners, so that they can help taxpayers, not only with actual payments, but we required everyone, we put together a little program, we required them to get counseling, financial counseling, and through the Empowerment Center, so that they would have ability to put together a budget and to understand how the tax system works so that they could try to avoid this happening in the future. So that's what's going on with that.
Okay. Yes, I agree that counseling is key because they can end up right back in the same situation. You just talked about the pay as you stay program. What's the status on that, and how is that? Has it been affected by COVID?
It hasn't been affected by COVID because many of the applications have been just coming in gradually over the last year and a half, 2 years, I guess. This pay as you stay program is working. I mean, people who are exempt because of their low income and have back taxes through the pay as you stay program, they will usually can extinguish about 80% of their taxes. If they live in Detroit, and we have 18 communities participating in this program, but if you live in Detroit, the Dan Gilbert Foundation will pay the balance of whatever, if you have any balance after going through pay as you stay. If you have a balance, they will pay that amount. So that program is working very well. Those who are participating are very happy with it. Of course, they don't have a tax balance anymore. And we encourage people who are low income to apply with their local assessor's office to see if they're eligible.
And they still have to apply every year for the exemption. Is that correct?
They have to do something every year. I don't know if they have to go through the whole process, but I think it's a very abbreviated process to reapply on a yearly basis.
Yeah, because that was a major problem with having to reapply for exemption every year. I think that was very taxing, especially if you were a senior citizen. And so there is a abbreviated process. Is that what you just indicated?
I believe, John Vier, do you want to talk about that at all?
Yes, it's at the local level. It's, it's not in our office, but there is some legislation that was recently passed that allows the locals to adopt a policy allowing taxpayers to apply for an exemption and not have to apply for an additional 2 years after the first application. But that does have to be adopted at the local level. So we're not really involved in that. We have been in touch with the city of Detroit. We know that they adopted that policy and we're happy for that. And hopefully that will help us get more taxpayers into the pay-as-you-stay program as well and get rid of those back taxes.
Right. Yeah, because if they aren't in the program at the city level, then they wouldn't qualify at Wayne County's program. So great to know that the city of Detroit is part of that. Thank you, and thank you again for all that you do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I was wondering if we could talk about the next round of foreclosures. Are we going to handle the auction differently, or are we doing it the same way? Can we talk about that publicly, or because of the lawsuit?
John Vier, would you please give a little summary of what's going on and also talk about the claims process?
Okay, please.
Okay, so I'm sorry, let me start the video again. The auction process is basically the same for just the auction itself. There is a new claims process that is mandated by state law now after in the wake of Raffaele. So a taxpayer who is facing foreclosure once the property has been foreclosed has an opportunity to submit an intent to claim the auction, surplus auction proceeds. And that is information is on our website. There's a link to the form for the taxpayers to submit to our office. And once we have that form, then there's a process that requires us after the auction to then notify that taxpayer of the amount of the excess proceeds and then the subsequent process of going through the courts to make sure that any parties who have any interest in the properties are also notified of the excess proceeds so that they have their rights to make a claim on that as well. So that has been implemented. So far this year, for this year's auction after foreclosures, we had no claims of intention submitted. But I would imagine that next year, as the word gets out more and more, we will start to see those applications coming in or those claims coming in higher numbers. So there is a process, and it has been started and implemented, and we're just waiting for the claimants to come forward. And those are those who are claiming prospectively after Raffaelli for this year's auction and going forward. There's also a claims process for those who might be affected by Raffaelli if there's a determination by the courts that it's retroactive. That has not been determined yet at the higher court. There was a recent district court ruling that says that it's prospective only, but we're waiting for that to go through the entire system before we can determine how it's going to impact, especially our reserves.
Thank you. Mr. Treasurer, I always think about.
Oh, Madam Chair, to that point, or were you going to the next?
I was going to speak, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to clarify the claims process, the excess proceeds. Is there a time limit to apply for that?
Yes, there is. So it has to be before July 1st, preceding the auction date.
Before July 1st, preceding
the auction
date. Okay. And if not, then what happens? If you don't apply before that time, you forfeit and it goes to the county?
Yes.
Okay. And you know what, can you just explain the auction process? From start to finish?
Well, it's a little technical for me to explain, but once we have
just the dates and how it moves through.
Okay, so once we have our final foreclosure list of parcels, we first forward those to the locals because they have a right of refusal to purchase those properties for public use, for any public purpose. So that typically happens during the month of July. By the end of July, we then take those properties off of our auction list and we prepare for our publication of the properties to be auctioned. We have to publish those. So that notice has to be 30 days before the auction. We usually do that around the first or second week in August. And then our auction is in early September, the first or second week of September. It's open for, Treasurer, is it 5 days or 3 days? I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's open for a number of days. And then at the end of that period, we close out and award those parcels to the highest bidder. They have a period of 72 hours to make payment or to contact us to ask for an extension for extenuating circumstances. That's very rare, but it does happen. And then we begin to, once we receive payment, we issue the deed to the purchaser. Oh, I'm sorry. There's also a process in there after we have the successful bidders where we submit those names to the locals to make sure that there are no outstanding ordinance violations, blight and the like. And then when they clear the bidders, then we issue the deeds to the purchasers.
And if there is a issue with the blight for the bidder?
If it's outstanding, we cannot issue a deed to them.
Okay, so they would have to clear that up before you issue the deed?
Exactly.
Okay, because that was one of the issues that I was concerned about is folks that purchase properties and haven't taken care of the ones they already have. So, okay, it's good to know that there's a process to deal with that. Okay. And thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do you know if the state law allows the locals to sell to neighbors in order to keep the slum landlord or out-of-state LLCs from not taking care of the property and just holding on to it forever until it gets dilapidated? Could the locals take the properties under first of refusal and then go through this procedure?
Yes, that happens quite a bit. Local communities, as John Vier mentioned, they have the right of refusal to take these properties by paying the back taxes and for a public purpose. If that's the public purpose that they state, then they can also sell these properties to neighbors, to residents.
So selling it to the neighbors would not be public purpose, correct?
Well, it's we don't know the definition of public purpose. That's a broad definition, and I think it's been discussed and debated. But the local community has to determine what the public purpose is.
Okay, so if they want to be creative, they somehow could make sure that it stays local, in local ownership, as opposed to someone out of some state. I know there's quite a few of that going on.
Madam Chair, to that point,
Yes.
in the city of Dearborn, when the county offers them the property under the first right of refusal, the city of Dearborn will take possession of these homes. A lot of times they renovate them and they sell them to owner occupants only. They don't offer it to anybody who's looking to be a landlord, only to owner occupant. And in this hot real estate market right now, where there are so many buyers and very few sellers, it helps to have more inventory to the first-time home buyers that are looking to move and buy their homes. So there is a program where they only offer it to owner occupant. I'm not sure how it is in other cities in Wayne County, but I'm speaking for Dearborn. That's how they do it.
Did they do that by ordinance or practice? Do you know?
No, practice.
Okay. Alrighty, so any community then could probably do the same thing as Dearborn. I would like to see that practiced more throughout the county and in fact the state, because I see it all over the place. Alrighty, thank you very much. The other question I had was the hardship program. Are we getting enough people, you think, who hear the message that they may be eligible, or do we need to do a better job of communicating, or how could we help with that?
I think we can always do a better job communicating. I think that and the other part of your question, how can you help with that? I think that your newsletters that you put out, any kind of meetings that you have in the community, we want to be a part of it. Either our literature, going out to the people, inviting us to these meetings, and also putting information in your communications, email communications or hard copy to the people. I think this will help us. We work with the communities, the Downriver Community Conference, the Conference of Western Wayne, all of them trying to get our word out. We only have a few cities in Wayne County that have a serious foreclosure, property tax foreclosure issue, but we want to reach everyone. So you can help us that way.
If you could prepare a half a page of whatever information you want to send out in your words, I will verbatim put it in my newsletter.
Okay.
We're working on it, so I would appreciate that.
All right, I will promise to send that to all the commissioners.
That would be great.
You can choose whoever wants to do it, and then you have the information. Yeah.
That is really great. Commissioner Martha G. Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank the treasurer for being a part of my community meeting. I got so many calls thanking the information that he gave. So thanks again, and thanks for all what you do in our communities, Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have any questions before we close out? Any staff members? Mr. Abel?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you
Ma-
for,
Madam Chair, can I just make one more comment in response to Mark's question earlier? Or
Sure.
his, I just wanted to note that we do annually prepare an analysis of the funds that are available for surplus, and that hasn't changed. And in our analysis, we do include the items that are needed for reserve. And that is what has impacted this year's determination of the surplus. So that analysis is completed and it is submitted to the commission every year.
I do have one more question. Do we know when we will have a determination whether we would have to pay back any of the auction?
No, we don't have any idea. The issue is still going through the courts. So we have some cases here in our Third Circuit Court, and there are cases throughout the state in other counties. I think every county has at least one lawsuit pending. And then we have the Raffaele decision, which is still, like I said, there was a decision at the circuit court level, but it has to move up. We know it's being appealed. It would go through the Court of Appeals and then again to the Supreme Court before there's a final decision on whether it's prospective or retroactive, and also to determine if there's going to be a class that's allowed in the case of our county or other counties, and that would determine the impact as well. So it may take some years before we actually get to a final determination.
Well, thank you for being proactive and be ready just in case. We appreciate that. There was one little thing that I was going to, about the foreclosure and current foreclosure and the notifications. When you do send out the information, of course, I know, I don't even have to ask, the answer is going to be yes, that they are getting the information on the hardship program and anything and everything that they could apply for in order for them to save their homes. So I'm sure that you're doing it. I just want to put it on public record.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we do. It's included in all of our notices.
It's good for the public to know that you are trying to inform them, but people just don't always follow directions, and sometimes it becomes hard once they lose their house, but they should be proactive as well. Well, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, we will move on then to the next item. Thank you very much, Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Adams and everyone else. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
On to the next agenda item, Mr. Abel.
Yes, next item is Corporation Counsel and Indigent Defense Services. And I believe our Corporation Counsel, James Heath is with us.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today. James Heath, Wayne County Corporation Counsel. I also have Victoria Ennis Edwards, who is head of our Human Relations and Business Inclusion Division, as well as, likely for the last time in the history of Corporation Counsel, Robin Dillarussa, who is will be hopefully the new head of newly formed department, and she is here to present her budget as well. And so I'd just like to thank all of them for joining us. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I will just, as by way of brief overview, tell you that I could not be prouder of the work that the Department of Corporation Counsel, including all those entities that I've mentioned, have done over the past year. I'm not shy about telling people that, in my opinion, the two issues which have been front and center in our county, state, and country over the last year. The first is the challenges surrounding the federal elections that we just that just concluded well after November, and also the pandemic. And members of Corporation Counsel, specifically our municipal team, were front and center with representing the county's interests in both of those matters and working to represent the clerk, the Board of Canvassers, to make sure that all votes in Wayne County were counted. And then while at the same time representing our client in the public health sphere to ensure that citizens of our county and state were as healthy as possible, and that we were able to put the right policies in place to accomplish that goal. Our litigation team represented our sheriff's department as well as other entities in the county in fighting off litigation related to our existing jail facilities, while at the same time maintaining the safety of the inmates in our facilities as well as the employees who work there. Those facilities continue to enjoy one of the lowest COVID positive rates in the country, and so that's in large part due to the work of members of our litigation team. Victoria and her group maintain certifications for businesses throughout our county, as well as work to ensure that the new CJC project remains on task with certifications, with proper inclusion and county workforce. Work very closely with Commissioner Anderson's committee in that regard. And also monitored and continue to work through on something that has been a breakthrough on more recently, opioid litigation. Some of you may have heard about the national settlement which was reached. We are still working out the details and hope to do that within the next 40 to 60 days with respect to the state attorney general and her views on how local communities like Wayne will split the funds that will come to the state. So that's something that we've also been working on very closely. And then I'm going to let Robin, when it's her turn, talk about the many successes we've had in the indigent defense space, which I think, as I came to you 2 years ago when we were moving to change the indigent defense contractor to NDS, that I thought that would be something that at the end of all of our careers, we would be very proud of the work that we did in that regard together as the executive branch, as well as with the commission. And so Robin has some highlights on that she can share. But we did all of that in a very difficult environment. We were hit with the kind of a spate of retirements and resignations just before COVID. And we were in the middle of replacing a number of the attorneys that we have working. And then we went into a hiring freeze, as everyone on this commission knows. And so all of the work that I just referenced, we did, in large part while shorthanded and short-staffed. And we have, as we've kind of emerged from the pandemic, to some extent, we have really been concentrating on filling a lot of those vacancies, getting all of our teams and divisions back staffed in the way that we need them to be. We still do have a ways to go with some positions, but we're making progress, and the budget that is before you will allow us to continue to do so. And we're proud of the work that we've done. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions? I'm sure as the discussion goes on, it's gonna, we'll have more questions. Mr. Abbo, do you have anything?
I can ask a question.
Okay. Mr. Abbo? He got froze up, I guess.
Just as Mr. Abbo returns, just one other point, and you had raised this as a question, Commissioner Varga. We talk about the Raffaelli decision in those cases. We have cases in our local Third Circuit, cases across the country, rather across the state, as well as in our federal courts. And while it is correct that we had a good news out of Oakland County regarding the question of retroactivity and how the Raffaelli decision is going to be applied, it is true that I would expect by early next week that plaintiffs in that matter will be appealing that decision. But I will tell you that I'd much rather be on the side of having a positive decision appealed than on the negative side, and so that we do see that as important. It's not just the retroactivity question though that we're facing. Another important one is the statute of limitations, and so how far back, even if we are talking about retroactivity, can cases go? And so we have advanced positions that we should be looking at a much shorter time period than plaintiffs have requested. And so that is something that we're also awaiting decisions on. And then probably the most important for our purposes, and this is something that is pending in Wayne Circuit in front of Judge Kenny, is the whole issue of class certification. And so if that question is decided in the county's favor, the retroactivity and the statute of limitations decisions, however they come out, will be the county will come out much more favorably if the class is not certified, class of plaintiffs, and we think we have some good arguments in that regard. These cases are moving slowly. We take every opportunity for a victory very seriously. It may be that sometime soon we request a closed session, perhaps, as more decisions come out, where we will bring in our outside counsel. We're working with some of the best attorneys in the state who have a lot of experience in these matters, and at an appropriate time, sometime over the next year, perhaps we can even speak more directly to you about the status of litigation. But I did think it's important to give you that general overview.
Do you recall how long the plaintiffs are asking for to go back?
There's a lot of plaintiffs, and I can't say there's various times. I think they probably are not necessarily trying to limit themselves,
right?
But I think a general statute of limitations period that they have discussed would be 6 years, and so we feel that would not necessarily be the appropriate time. Right. Presented arguments as to why if retroactive at all, it should be much more limited.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Marecki?
Thank you, Madam Chair. James, I believe I read somewhere that in the budget, the monies for the rental of the Guardian, your portion of it are going to be reduced. Is that correct?
So that was an aspect of the budget that we had to, quite frankly, ask M&B about. We don't really, Commissioner Marecki, handle that as a hard number within our budget process, and so that is one of those items that, unfortunately, I'm going to need to rely on M&B to address.
Okay.
I'm sorry. This is Huey Newsome, CFO. Could you repeat the question, Commissioner?
Sure. I read somewhere in the budget that there is a reduction for the rental at the Guardian building in this department.
Right, that's correct. It's not because of reduction in space per se. I have to go back and look and research clearly. It's not necessarily a reduction in space. It might be the allocation of the overall charges based on the changing in the underlying factors. So I have to go back and look.
Okay, because I'm wondering if that's happening here, would that be in almost every department since no one's back? And is it because of COVID?
Yeah.
Mr. Newsom?
And so I know, I can tell you certainly not a function of reduced space allocation on our part, Commissioner. And so
Okay.
not as if we've got fewer attorneys with fewer desks and workspaces that are requiring. So I would, but I'll defer to Huey on that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, Huey, I mean, when you have a chance to look into it, I'd appreciate it.
If I might add, Commissioner, rent is one of those items that's just an allocation.
Yeah.
They accumulate all the costs and then they just allocate shares to all of the departments. So
Right.
I think it'd probably be more appropriate if we evaluate that in the context of the department that's incurring the cost. The allocation out is something that's just an allocation out. You want to really look at the source the source departments that are incurring the expenditures to see what they are incurring before they allocate it out to their departments. And an example of this is Corporation Counsel. They incur costs by paying for legal fees and fringes, or not legal fees, salaries for lawyers, and they allocate it out to the different departments. So, our concern with Corporation Counsel is the cost of that they incur in acquiring the services and resources.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Newsom, do you have any other feedback on that? Or?
Mark, Mr. Abel's exactly right. That's where I was going to go. What we should be doing is looking at the source of the cost and then the allocation, the driving the cost driver, which of course in this situation is probably going to be floor space, and look at changes not necessarily just in Corp Counsel, but also in other departments, because the allocation could have changed even if Corp Counsel's underlying cost driver did not. So those are things we have to look at things holistically, not just for that one particular charge. And
okay,
we can provide information on that so that it's clear to you what drove that change.
Okay, thank you very much.
And of
I'm all
course,
set.
we know who you are from the commission, but Mr. Newsom, for the public, could you identify yourself, please?
Yes, Huey Newsom, Chief Financial Officer for Wayne County. Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. Alrighty, Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you talked about retroactivity and the statute of limitations, what do you suggest the amount of time should be?
Well,
so I'll answer the question.
Yeah.
And say, because we have pending litigation, Commissioner Baker McCormick, I think it would be imprudent for me to answer in those sort of terms, because anything that I say would end up in a court filing, perhaps to the county's detriment.
Okay.
What I will tell you though is in general terms, we believe that the Oakland County judge produced a ruling that was the appropriate one when she indicated that there was not going to be retroactivity with respect to the Raffaelli decision.
And that means what time span? What are we?
That would mean so that, for potential plaintiffs who filed suit, potential plaintiffs could only file suit for what they deemed as inappropriate losses or inappropriate takings going forward after the Supreme Court's decision in Raffaelli. And so you can look at, and I don't know the date offhand of the Raffaelli decision by the Supreme Court, but that you could not take that decision and then look backwards to sales, for instance, that happened in the treasurer's office prior to that decision. So the Supreme Court changed the law, and the law is just that, going forward, not looking behind.
Okay, so basically there would be no retro activity.
That was the decision out of Oakland County that we believe is the correct ruling. That's correct.
All right. All right, and I'm not sure if this is the time for this question, but I wanted to know the numbers of, and if you have the statistics of contracts that were, the number of contractors that we have by race or sex. Do we have those statistics or numbers?
When you say contract and vendors, are you speaking about outside counsel that our department hires?
I'm looking at the overall contracts. You have Miss Ennis Edwards on the line?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So as far
again-
as contractors.
Okay, Victoria Ennis Edwards, Director of Human Relation Business Inclusion Division for Wayne County. Are you speaking as a totality of all the contracts that are coming through the county?
Yes.
Okay, that is something that we can get to you. That is the information that we do in conjunction with the procurement office. That is something we did not prepare in this moment for our budget hearing, but that is something that we do report on. And we have the ability to get some of that information. I'm making a note right now of that. And
That is what I
specifically,
would, yeah.
and specifically, you're saying the breakdown of all the contracts. What are you looking for within the contracting?
Really the overall numbers of divided by race, by sex, veterans, business.
Okay, we can provide you some of the information. For example, trends, we don't track that right now. So we can have an additional conversation offline. That's part of our reporting that we do, but we are able to have some of the breakdown. Are they county-based businesses? That type of information. And that is something that we do with the procurement department.
Thank you.
No problem.
Victoria, it's probably a good start would be like the reports we used to have, or we probably do get, is the Wayne County based contractors and those who are getting, it would probably be good information for Commissioner McCormick to have, is the discounts that people do get by being Wayne County or City of Detroit businesses. We could also, if you wanted to, Commissioner McCormick, at a given time, we could have Victoria back and go through the different items for our small businesses and have you get really acquainted with it, because it's been a while since we had that conversation. I'm not sure if any other committees have had that with you, but I remember a while back, we used to have that pretty regularly.
Actually, Chair, I think the end of September, if I'm trying to kind of go and look at my computer. I think that's our quarterly reporting time. So we'll probably try to get on one of the committees and we'll do our normal reporting. And that's where we'll go do an overview of all of that.
Okay. Will that be okay with you, Commissioner McCormick?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. She's newer on the committee or commission than some of us who have dealt with this in many years. And I think it's proper that everyone gets educated on what the process is. And I think
Absolutely, my
you'll find it
pleasure.
very interesting and very, very educational. Um, Well, I'll call on Mark Abbo and then Commissioner Martha G. Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. James, I just had a question about indigent services in the state of Michigan. I think that we're all aware that the state is trying hard to push those costs, which is really a mandate to counties, and particularly future costs. I mean, we've kind of identified where we are last year currently on what share the Wayne County is going to pay of indigent services. And the state is trying to, on a going forward basis, push more of the growth in cost to the counties. Do you know of where they stand on that endeavor, and whether on a going forward basis our costs are expected to increase in a rate that's greater than the state's cost?
So I'm going to turn that over to Robin, because I know that she deals with this on a regular basis. The only thing I will say is, you are correct in the sense that we pay our kind of base amount going back as an average for a 3-year period several years ago, but that there is an inflationary increase built in every year that frankly does mean that we end up paying more of a local share than we would probably ordinarily have paid, Mark. And I mean, that's entirely true. Robin, you want to speak more to that in terms of the increases that may be coming down the pike, if any, and what we're doing to kind of push back heavily against more funds coming out of the county's general fund?
Well, good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Robin Dillarussa, Director of the Office of Public Defense Services. And Mr. Abbo, yeah, to your question, I think James sort of summed it up, but also my understanding is there is a local share work group that is being created to take a further look at sort of the local shares across systems in Michigan due to that fact. Obviously, as you stated, the local share is a statutory mandate from the Act. But again, there is a local share work group that's been created, and certainly I can check with some of the members of that work group to determine or to discuss and see where they are in terms of those discussions.
Well, actually, just as you become aware of any, because James was right, if we continue to take on just the inflationary part and the state doesn't share in that inflationary increase, ultimately we'll be paying more than the state of Michigan, which is, again, this is a mandate of the state, not necessarily a mandate of the county. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Robin.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Commissioner Martha G. Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is Mr. Huey Newsome still on?
Mr. Newsome, are you still on?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. In the Guardian building, is it fully occupied, or have we lost any of the renters because of COVID?
I'm not aware that we've lost any renters. I don't know if Andy's on the call to keep me honest. I'm not aware that we've lost any renters as of today. Obviously, in terms of occupation with remote work, even from our tenants, obviously with county employees as well, that's kind of a moving target as we speak. But I'm not aware of any tenants lost. And Andy, you correct me if I'm wrong.
So are we fully occupied or not?
I think there's probably some, let me get back to you on that one. I think there's maybe a half a floor. When I last checked, there's probably a half a floor that may have been available, so I don't want to speak for certainty.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sure you're taking notes as we go along, and eventually we'll get those answers as we go along through the process of the budget hearings. We're going to be hearing from buildings later on sometime next month, so that's probably that will be a good time to talk about that too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner or anyone from Corp Counsel or so far so good. Mr. Heath, go ahead. Do you have anything to add?
I do not, other than to thank you for your consideration of this budget.
Thank you. Great job. You're doing a great job on the jail. It's coming along really well. You're putting a lot of work into it. So just know that we appreciate you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Baker McCormick.
thank you. And I just wanted to comment that we did a tour of the, I guess, the shell that's there right now for the jail, and it's looking great. It is. So I am just so glad to see it come along. Thank you.
Well, so thank you very much. From your mouth to God's ears. I think I'd also like to thank the entire commission, but especially the special subcommittee you've set up under Commissioner Anderson's leadership. It allows us to communicate with you all on a very regular basis about things happening with the jail. And I think it's been a great process that we've developed. And so we look forward to continuing in that vein.
And we're looking forward to moving in so we can save some more money. That is always a good thing. Alrighty, well, thank you very much. And with that, do you have any other issues for us today, Mr. Abel?
Are we considered done with Corporation Counsel, Madam Chair?
He seems to think that we are.
All right, well, then I would like to take this time to just, I mean, as you can see, going through these budget hearings and this process, there's a tremendous amount of work and effort that goes into it. And I've got to acknowledge that most of the heavy lifting is done on the commission side by our fiscal staff. And I want to acknowledge Terrence Adams and Mary Carr for all the efforts that they put forward in doing this, and also acknowledge our CFO and his staff for their responsiveness and making sure that this happens in a timely and effective way. I'll probably say that again, but I just didn't want to let this first hearing pass without acknowledging those parties that really make it happen.
Well, I also want to say that our staff could not do as much good work without good leadership, Mr. Abel. So thank you as well. And it's always been a pleasure to work with our CFO, and hopefully we will have a hat trick 3 in a row with the consensus budget that we're really aiming to do. So we're going to work very, very hard to get our issues resolved behind the scenes. And if we don't do it on Zoom, we're going to continue working one-on-one, 3-on-3, whatever we have to do to get this budget to a consensus so we can all be happy about serving our Wayne County residents the best that we're able to do. We do have Mr. Kinlock who would like to chime in.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you for acknowledging me. I would like to say this being my first hearing, the information they did get to us in a timely fashion. The questions that they dove into with the various departments that came before us today in advance of this hearing was very, very, very helpful. And even the little footnotes and all of this was very user-friendly. So Mr. Abel and Terrence and Mary, you did a great job, at least from my standpoint as someone new to all of this and being able to understand and navigating this. And thank you, Terrence, for making yourself always available for any questions.
Thank you. Great job. We're happy to have you aboard. And for the public, we do get a large package and we study it prior to the meetings. And so there's a lot of work that goes into this before we make our decisions at the end of the season to bring a next budget and the year after budget. So I thank you all commissioners for being so on top of it all and digesting it before the committee so we can ask educated questions. And no questions are dumb questions. The only ones that are dumb are the ones that we don't ask. So nothing weird, nothing, we can ask anything we want. Alrighty, with that, I think we're done with our scheduled public or scheduled meetings, and we are now going to go to the next item. Madam Clerk.
My apologies, I had a hard time unmuting. Next item, item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I have none, except that we're going to announce that our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, August 3rd. Am I correct, Mr. Abel?
Yes, ma'am. Tuesday, August 3rd, we'll be talking retirement, personnel, and Department of Public Services. The meeting starts at 10 o'clock.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item G, public comments.
Please unmute everyone.
Everyone has been asked to unmute themselves.
Do we have any emails that were sent in?
No emails have been received.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wishing to comment at this time? Anyone from the public wishing to comment? State your name and you may start speaking. Anyone from the public wishing to comment? I hear none. Next item.
Item H, adjournment.
Commissioner
moved.
Baker McCormick moves. Commissioner Martha
Support.
Gay support. That we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I hear no opposition. We're adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
You too.